He's dominating the airways right now. But are you concerned that Donald Trump, being Donald Trump, will actually hurt him and his bottom line in the long run?
Well, you know, I've known Donald Trump for over a decade now, and the one thing that I admire about the man is that he speaks truth and he stands behind his truth. Regardless of whether you agree with the delivery of the message or not, you can't debate that he's bringing to light important issues. I think that we live in a country where we boast about having freedom of speech, but yet most Americans are afraid to use it. And I think that's because of our innate ability, or I should say insecurity within most human beings, and that overwhelming need to be accepted rather than rejected. Not to mention that as a small business owner, I've spoken to so many small business owners who are afraid to actually voice their opinion for fear that their customers will leave them, and then they basically will not have the ability to provide for their family. Their livelihood will be gone. And so really, do we live in a country where we're allowed to speak truth? And I think that's what Donald Trump is really bringing to light right now. And, you know, as a Cuban American, my parents are immigrants. What I'm saying is that there's truth behind what he's saying. So maybe the delivery is not what we all want to hear, but there's truth behind it. For instance, I think that it's a free-for-all. Right now, immigration's a big topic because he's brought that to light. I'm a Cuban American, and I am so proud that my parents were immigrants, but they came here the right way. They followed the policy and things were done right. All he's saying is it can't be a free-for-all, and there has to be a procedure. And so everybody's up in arms because they're basically, you know, changing his words and just focusing on a few words that he said, but let's not forget about the overall messaging here. You know, everybody's trying so hard to be politically correct.
I want Randall to be able to get in here because we don't have a lot of time, but I understand you think that his message is right, but he's not saying it properly. Randall, you disagree with that?
Yeah, I completely disagree. With all due respect to Katrina, I don't hear any truth in what Donald is saying to say that Mexicans are rapists and are criminals. And I think the real issue here is an issue around privilege. Now, first of all, I don't think Donald realized what he was saying when he said it. And he said it as he was kicking off his presidential campaign, which is like his introduction to America as a candidate for political office. You're saying Mexicans are rapists and are criminals. And then having been called out on saying it, the man is doubling down and not retreating and not apologizing. There is no truth in the idea of immigrants being rapists and criminals. And the second thing I'll say on that is...
But Randall, he's not saying, and you have to give, he's not saying that all Mexicans are
no, he's not saying all, but he is...
Exactly.
But he is stereotyping. He is stereotyping, and he's feeding into a stereotype. And if you endeavor to be the president of the free country, then you have to have more responsible language, more inclusive language, more representative language that all Americans can see a reflection of themselves.
There's no truth to what he's saying at all, there's no truth to what he's saying at all in your estimation?
Well, there's no truth to the stereotype of Mexicans being rapists and criminals, no. And inasmuch as he has not retreated, he has lost sponsorships, he's lost business. And I don't think it's a matter of us not wanting to have honest or direct dialogue. I think it's a matter of insensitivity and a lack of awareness of what he's saying as a result of privilege.
Yeah.
But I think he's lost so many of those business relationships. Yes, and companies are cutting ties, and this is what I'm saying is that companies are cutting ties because he's not being politically correct. Should he have mentioned, you know, the part about the Mexicans and labeling them as... he is being completely politically incorrect. And I'm not saying that what he said about Mexicans being rapists is right. Absolutely not. That's not. That's a generalization. But what I'm saying is that how quick are these companies to basically cut ties with him because he's voicing his opinion on the general issue, which is immigration.
He addresses that in an
let's not just focus on...
Let's listen.
Macy's was weak. They were very weak because they want to be politically correct. By the way, thousands of people are cutting up their Macy's credit card right now, and I love that. I love that because I hate to see weak people when they're wrong. I think they're paying a very big price.
So I apologize because there's a delay to cut you off. So that was in the interview. So go ahead and respond to that.
So, and to his point, everybody is very quick when somebody doesn't have the popular opinion to basically cut ties with them. So really, my question is, do we have freedom of speech in this country or not? Because all of these countries are basically cutting ties with him because it's not popular opinion.
But Katrina,
and that's what's so fearful.
Okay.
But Katrina, the point is not...
Let Randall get in here.
The point is not whether Donald is articulating a popular opinion. It's whether he's articulating an offensive position, an insensitive position, an insulting position, and an inaccurate position. And so I don't think Americans have a problem with unpopular views. I think Americans, like myself, have a problem with views that are offensive, that are stereotypical, and that are divisive at a time when, and Don, you're in South Carolina, at a time when our country needs us to come together and to have language of inclusiveness. The last thing we need is a presidential candidate spewing language that is divisive, and that, unfortunately, is what Donald is doing.